Hello everybody and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be upping your basing skills. Hello, so yes, we're going to be building up on what we did in the first video that I did on basing for beginners, where we did this base right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what we did on this and we're going to up it to something a little bit cooler, especially for like a character model here on this Emperor's Children Horus Heretic Praetor that I'm working on. And it's like I really want a really cool base for him, so I'm going to show you how I go about doing it. Now this is basically rocks that I've made myself using milliput and phyllo clay, and I kind of like layer it and stuff like that. I'm going to put a video up in the link to a video that I used before where I show you making it. If you want me to actually make a more focus video on how to do this, then feel free to drop it in the comments below. Also, yes, while you're doing that, please subscribe to the channel if you like what I do, like the video, give it a share, and make sure that you ring the bell so you don't miss out on anything. So as you can see with this stuff, it's really cool because of all the little layers. It kind of looks like rock, and the really cool thing is you can like cut away at it, you can like carve into it, you can use a Dremel or something like that and really sort of work with it. So I've got two good bases here that I kind of like, and I've got my base, so I'm going to get this position it to where I want it, and you're going to see me sort of like cutting away at things and smoothing things out and flattening layers off. Obviously use a sharp hobby knife and try to go with the grain. Don't like work against the grain because you may end up slipping and cutting yourself. So just be super careful when you are using a knife, you know, safety first. And anything that is a little bit that you don't really like, you can use clippers, clip it away. It's all good. This is what I love about working with this stuff, and it's super easy as well, and you can literally make this stuff yourself, and you don't have to worry about slate and everything else. And later on in this video I'll go and show you how you can attach your miniatures to this with pins in a way that you can't do when actually using slate on your bases. So yeah, you see me sort of going backwards and forwards. I'm cutting it down, I'm smoothing it down, trying to make sure that I kind of get each part kind of level, because you got to remember that the miniature is going to be standing on top of this. Now you can sort of manipulate it. If you get some a little bit of milliput, you can put the milliput on top of it. You can push the foot into the milliput, and you can kind of sculpt the foot into the rock, so you know exactly where you're going to put it. But for this case, we're not really going to go that in depth for this right now. So what we're just going to do is just try to make sure that we kind of get a level surface that we're going to put the miniature on, and then we're going to go from there. So you can see me sort of just positioning it around until I'm a little bit happy. Then I will get the glue out and I will glue things in place. The last video for the basing for beginners did insanely well, so I'm hoping that this one does the same thing. It's really, really good. Thank you very much to everybody who watched it, commented on it, liked it, shared it. Yeah, brilliant. The algorithm really, really loved it. And if you haven't watched it, there'll be at the end of this video there'll be a link to it to go back and watch it if you really want to. So here I am now, just using some normal Loctite super glue, nothing flash, nothing expensive. You don't need to use Gorilla Glue or anything, and just push the pieces of putty, slate, rock, whatever you want to call it, into place. Just apply a little bit of pressure, and then that'll get it in now firm, in a nice firm position, and then just put that to one side and let it dry. I'm just putting a little bit of glue into the recesses and into the side just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere or break off, because that's the last thing you want to be doing, because I am going to be drilling into this. And there, as you can see, I'm just kind of just showing that, you know, it is relatively level, and that's going to be pretty good for when the feet of the Space Marine stands on it. Okay, so you've got this is how I paint my miniatures. I use these 40mm cork bungs. They're like from, you can get them on Amazon for like a couple of pounds for a pack of 5. And now I'm just going to use the good old great, amazingly perfect for this, go-to texture paint, which is my AK textured mud. And it's an old brush. The super glue wasn't completely dry, so this brush is now in the bin, because that little area right in there was full of glue, and I stuck my brush right into it, and yeah, it is kind of wrecked. So that's in the bin now. So it was an old brush anyway, so it's not a problem. So yeah, so you know, just exactly like you did in the first video, just apply the texture paint. This is why I love this stuff. It's so easy to use and so versatile, and you can do a lot of stuff with it. You'll see me later on like pile a lot of it on to pretty much this area here to kind of sort of blend in that rock into the mud texture, which is kind of cool, and this is why I like it. Yep, so just work it around, and there you go. I'm just like filling that gap in a little bit. The gap was a little bit too prominent, and just wanted to fill it in. You could have used putty for that if you really want to. And here I am just getting a really big dollop of it on, and I'm just going to smooth that out and sort of just blend that rock into the surface, and it's all good. I'm going to be going for like a sort of like grey, a grey sort of rulery base, because that'll really contrast nicely with the purple of the Emperor's Children armor. And it'll look really, really good, and we'll see that very shortly when I start painting it. Okay, so the pins. So what I've done is I've took this guy off the cork, and just wanted to show you how to do this. So I've took a pin off already. Pull the pin down to about a 90-degree angle, and then kind of just wiggle it around, and it'll eventually come out quite nicely. It'll break the glue inside, and it'll just slide out. And here what I'm doing is I'm just getting a knife and just cleaning off any excess glue from when I pinned it to the pins, glued it to the pins before. So now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to work out roughly where I want the feet, and if I can get the feet flat. Because as you can see, the feet aren't 100% flat, so I'm gonna have to cut into this and flatten this down a little bit better. So very short, you'll see me get my knife, and I'll sort of just cut into it, and I'll get that sort of flat surface even more. If you've got putty and you've got made putty already, like some milliput, you can just put a little bit of milliput on top of this and push the feet of the miniature into that, and that will kind of create that surface, and you'll be able to sort of rough up the sides. But like I said, I want to try to make this as easy as I can, because this video is aimed at beginners. We are going to slowly build up on our basing techniques as we go through these videos. So as you can see here, I'm sort of just cutting down one side with a knife, being ultra careful not to cut myself. I've cut my thumbs so many times, pulling the blade towards it, and as again you can still see it's not 100% flat, but it's looking a lot better than it is. So I'm going to cut down into it again, and then get that like nice and flat, and then we're going to be pinning the miniature to the base. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I am painting the base. So I primed it black, and now I'm just gonna base coat it with Mechanicus Standard Grey with a little bit of black in there. If you've got Eshin Grey, use Eshin Grey. I don't have any Eshin grey, so I just used some Mechanica standard grey, added a little bit black in there just to darken it down, and just base coat the whole base. Like I said, I'm going to go for like a rocky urban type looking base, because this colour will contrast really, really well with the Emperor's Children colours. So once that's dry, give it a wash of Adrax Earthshade. The brownie tone again will work really nicely. You can use black if you really want to, or you can mix a little bit of brown and a little bit of black. Whatever is up to you. I just like the brown with the grey. It works really well. And the one thing that I've got is I've got a hairdryer just next to me, so it kind of speeds up the process. After each one of these stages, even when I applied the texture paint, I can give it a blast with the hairdryer and it'll just speed up the process a little bit more. So just make sure that the whole base is covered and that you're not leaving anything uncovered, and give it a nice liberal wash. You know, we're going to be dry brushing over that, and let it dry, or use your hairdryer. And once you're happy with it, you can get your trusty dry brush out. This is my dry brush from Rosemary CO. Link in the description below if you're interested in grabbing some. And all I'm doing is dry brushing with some Storm Vermin Fur. It's a really cool, really sort of neutral, natural looking brown, and also a grey brown, and it really works for rock. And just giving it a good all over dry brush. I think I did about 2 coats. Yep, this is me coming in with the second coat now. Just dry brushing it really well, making sure that I pick out all of the edges of the rock in the middle of the base, and yeah, just make sure you go around and just dry brush it until you're happy with it. You can see that little tissue just to the side. Obviously that's what I'm using to get the excess paint off my brush. These are really good brushes. Don't buy Artist Opus brushes, because you're paying more money for essentially the same thing as what I'm using here, and just get them from the source where they're manufactured for slightly cheaper, and it's all good. So this is me coming for the final highlight on the rock, and I'm using Grey Seer. If you don't have Grey Seer but have something like Administratum Grey, use that. I find Grey Seer just as good. And you can, it's either color. You just want a light grey, and give it an all over dry brush, mainly focusing on the rock and around the edges of the rock, and yeah, just do that. This is me coming back in with the final layer of dry brushing with the Grey Seer, really just focusing on that the edges and the sort of the sides of the base, and really sort of get it down. You can enhance the rocks even more if you want by coming back in with a bit of an Adrax Earthshade wash in and around the rock or on the bottom part, but it's quite big, and I'm going to be adding stat grass to the end of this anyway. Okay, so switch the base over onto my red grass handle because I can get to the sides easier, and I am just very carefully painting on with a size 2 Rosemary CO Series 33 brush with some Steel Legion drab, a little bit thin with some water, and you're probably going to need at least 2 to 3 layers of this just to make sure that you get a solid opaque coat around the rim. If you don't like the Steel Legion drab with the grey, you could maybe base coat this with something like Skavenblight Dirge or Dinge, the sort of darker colour than the dry brush colour that I used, which was Storm Vermin Fur, and that kind of works really well. Obviously, if you're not using GW brushes, then you want to go for maybe like a sort of dark tan, beige type colour, or like a sort of like a browny grey, sort of dark browny grey. will work just as well, or you go for the classic black. You can never go wrong with black rims, always work really well. Yeah, now maybe if I start plugging Army Painter, they'll contact me and send me paints and I can paint stuff with them. But once that's all done, we're going to go start getting this model pinned. So this is the part where I was talking about in the previous video, that you're going to have to sort of pin your models to bases if you do the bases separately, because obviously super gluing the model to the base isn't going to hold it on correctly, because you're going to have a layer of PVA glue and paint or texture paint between the base and the miniature, especially if it's a plastic miniature and you can't use plastic glue to glue it to the base, because it's just not going to work. So what I've done here is I've cleaned it all off, and I've got a piece of pin to one side, and it's the same pins that I've had before, and I'm using my pin vise and I'm just cleaning out the holes that I previously had for the pins for when I was painting the model. Just put it back in, a little bit of a clean out, and just so you can get the pins back in, because obviously you did have super glue and the metal rod in there before. And now we just get a little bit of super glue again and put it back over the holes, because we're going to be putting the pins back in and we want them firmly in position before we start like clipping them off. And as you can see, they are literally the same pins that I used for attaching it to my basing handle for when I paint. Now all these are is some paper clips. Like, you don't need to buy expensive brass rod or anything. Cheap pack of paper clips from your local supermarkets will work fine, and I'm just clipping them down with my clippers to the right size, and you want them to at least about 5mm below the foot, just enough that it's going to sit into the base quite nicely. Now here's the thing, where do you drill into the base to make sure that you get the holes in the correct place? Well, that's really a really good question. Well done whoever was in the comments for asking that, because hopefully one of you did. I've just got a little bit of brown paint. You can use red paint, you can use whatever colour paint you want, and I just get the paint and I just dab it on the end of the pins, and then, as you can probably imagine, I'm now going to take the miniature and I'm going to press it against the base, and it will leave 2 little dots to show exactly where I'm going to be pinning in, using my pin vise and drilling the holes in place. So there you go, I'm just pushing it down and voila, 2 little brown dots, exactly what I need to do. Now I will say that I should have probably pulled the left foot, the one that I'm drilling now, a little bit further back, but I can live with the little overhang of the foot over the rock. I think it looks kind of cool, and I'm actually quite happy with how that turned out. So as you can see, just drilling in and all the way through. Give it a little blow to get rid of all the dust. Obviously make sure that you're doing this once everything is dry, and this is why I added a little bit extra super glue to the start, because obviously you're going to be holding it, you're going to be pushing down with the drill bit to drill that hole in, and the last thing that you want to do is not put enough glue on that piece of putty and for it to basically break away from the plastic base. So make sure that you've really attached it to the base properly, and it's not going to go anywhere. Now before adding any glue to the model, we're just going to dry fit this. So we put it in and we kind of just sort of squeeze the legs together a little bit. That'll pull the pin in and you'll be able to get it into the hole, and then just firmly push it down so it's in. You can see it's just a little bit high, but that's obviously because the pin is going through the putty or the rock, and you're going to have to sort of like just make that a little bit bigger so it fits in a little bit more snugly. So once you're happy with how it's standing, and yeah, then take it off and get some super glue, which was what we're about to do very shortly. So here you am, taking it off, a little bit of super glue, and then I position it back in place. And then that's it, add your stack of grass, and your base is done. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So I hope this was a good one, everyone, and I hope it's building off the last video. And that is the video, everybody. I hope you found this informative, and I hope you enjoy it. Sort of building upon what we've done in the previous video and working up to something a little bit more advanced. Like I said, I have tagged I will tag the video where I build and mix and make the rocks using the milliput and the philo. If you want a separate video for that, drop that in the comments below. As well, if you really like the look of my Emperor's Children as well, I'll definitely be doing a video on how I do the purple armor in my new up and coming series called Heavy Marine, where I kind of paint Space Marines to like as close as I can to the box art and the sort of the way the studio does it. And this is kind of what I'm going to be doing for my Emperor's Children project. So that's going to be coming very, very soon. Super excited for that. So please smash that sub button so you don't miss it. We're definitely on the march now to get that 3,000. That's my target now. I want to get it done, and yeah, it's amazing. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, drop me a comment, and let me know what you kind of Marines you would like to see me paint to the sort of like that style. Any Emperor's Children stuff that you want to see me do, and yeah, and obviously ring that bell so you don't miss out. And I'll catch you in the next one, peeps. Goodbye for now.